today we are really excited for just to follow up because we both have been really grateful for receiving some feedback from listeners and friends and family who have just, given us encouragement, but also just really good feedback on the content we've put out there. And Eric and I were chatting the other day about how a lot of the feedback came from like the What is Healthy Food episode. Again, positive, which we appreciated, but also just some questions. Like, I've gotten some feedback from women in my life who are in different seasons, like some who have young kiddos, really busy jobs. They're not really veggie lovers yet. So Eric and I kind of wanted to follow up with some tips and tricks that you can use to kind of incorporate some of what we talked about in the last episode. And we also just want to clarify any feelings if anyone listened to that and felt really overwhelmed, right? Like, oh my gosh, I have to completely change my, like, no, like this is something that, again, Eric and I are both very passionate about. We've both been working on individually for years, and we both feel we're at a certain point that we can now talk about it, but also we don't expect anyone to do what we do or, things like that. So, I mean, Erica, do you have any initial, just kind of to get us started? Like, yeah, what have you been hearing from, feedback and from friends and things?
Yeah, I've definitely been hearing things, about like people thinking like, it was fun to listen to, but I also feel like I've had people in the past, not just in responding to the episode of the podcast, saying things like, well, I've done everything. Like I've changed the way that I live my whole life and it was just awful. Like why was it easier for you or whatnot? And I think, one of the things that I don't know that we clarified during the, what's healthy or even during our like physical fitness and moving your body conversation was like that this is not something that we did in like one day. I think if you change everything about your life, no matter if it's a healthier version of a life or just a new kind of lifestyle, it's going to suck. Like you shouldn't have to change your entire day just to be healthier. So, I think that kind of leads us to what small changes can you make in your day that don't feel like a huge burden to kind of start working towards the way you want to live your life?
Yeah, I think that is another aspect of what we tried to cover a little bit where, health, fitness, your journey, it can be so overwhelming because with the abundance of resources available to us also comes a little bit of an overload and a feeling, maybe not for everyone, but I know I fall into this camp of being like, I need to change everything now. Like, for example, I'm reading some really fascinating books recently called like The Grain Brain. One is called Genius Foods. I'll share them in the authors on in the description of this podcast, but it talks a lot about like cutting out certain types of foods and adding things in, and I'm taking notes and I'm like, I need to change this, and now like I feel like I have to do this complete overhaul, and it's no. Like, and I know that's not even what the authors and what people who put their, experiences out want for anybody. So we wanted to make sure that we jumped back on and just clarified that for you guys too, that, take what we say and apply it to your life in gradual steps and in ways that serve you in this season that you're in.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important place to note that, Brooke and I are both aware that we are not in the same, like you said, season of life as everyone who is listening. We all have different challenges, different stressors, different things that make certain parts of improving your eating habits easier or harder. I don't have any children, so I know that when I'm making a meal, I'm making it for myself and Joey, and he's going to eat whatever I put in front of him, even if he hates it. Where, if you have a 3 or 4-year-old, you may have to actually work to hide some of that stuff, or you maybe need to, take a big journey with your child and get them eating foods they're not comfortable with, which I can't even imagine how difficult that would be, because I work with kids and I know that they are very strongly tied to their senses. So I just want to make sure that, like, if you're listening to this and you're like, well, I have this huge barrier, that, we see that. And our goal is just to help you come up with ways to overcome your barrier, not for you to compare yourself to anybody else or what anyone else is doing and feel like, well, why can't I do that? You're doing amazing things every day. We just want to help you feel better about yourself, what you're doing, and see if maybe we can make it a little easier along the way.
Exactly. And, one thing on that as well that, Eric and I both really believe in, I think, again, we touched on this maybe a little bit, but the idea of trial and error and, or you might get in a good groove for a while and then life throws things your way and you kind of have to pivot. And we've even talked about this for ourselves recently, right? Like Erica, in her availability to her normal fitness classes have changed, and I'm getting ready for an international move, and I'm kind of preparing myself for what is my routine going to look like. And, just giving yourself grace again for like, you might try something and you're like, oh, I don't like this, or that's where another, small steps are so important. Because another thing, like let's say you go out and buy $200 worth of groceries and then you throw half of it away because you didn't have time to chop it up or you didn't like it and things like that is not what we want for you. Like trial and error in small steps, and then, just kind of maybe starting safely or in ways that there's not too much risk involved. We have some tips for you today that we think might be helpful for that. That can really help you even gain confidence and traction as you move forward with making changes for your lifestyle. With that being said, let's just talk about some tips and tricks. So Erica, what are some things that you do to like save time? Where do you find that it works best to fit meal prepping or certain decisions into your week? Like tell us about what works for you.
I have like my favorite meal is roasted veggies and rice and quinoa. And I want to eat it all the time. And it's almost always my lunch, especially when I'm at work, like out of my home. That is like a very easy thing for me to pack up and take to work. And I usually want to make that on Sunday. A lot of times I have a lot of free time on Sunday, so I get all my veggies. I have them delivered to my house, which is, one thing that makes it a lot easier. I subscribe to something called Imperfect Foods, and every other week I order some different vegetables and other, pantry staples, and they're just brought to me on Thursday, and that makes it no trip to the grocery store. I know every other week they're going to arrive, and I'm not going to have to worry about running out. But I'll sit there and I will cut all of these vegetables up and I'll roast them. And that it does take me a good hour. I'm usually, listening to podcasts or watching YouTube. But that is not always feasible. So, if you have something on Sunday, like you go somewhere and then you come home and it's already 8:00 and you're like, I have to make lunch for tomorrow, or I will be a very cranky woman at work. You can buy pre-chopped veggies. I mean, it's going to cost a little more, but you can get every single thing that I like. Broccoli, it's like maybe $1 more if you get it all cut up and have the florets ready than if you buy the head or whatever you would call that and cut it up yourself. And that all you do then is open the packages, wash them, rinse them, and then roast them. And then your thing is done in like half the time, and you don't even have to really be there for that cooking part. Instead of being actively involved for an hour, you are actively involved in that process for 10 minutes, maybe 15, and then you can go do other things you need to get done. Like you need to go do laundry, or you need to take a nap, or you want to zone out because it's been a really long day. You can put them in the oven and then play on TikTok if that's what you need, So that is definitely something that I do when my life gets a little busy, especially if I'm gone for the weekend, so that I can still know that my everyday lunch is there and ready for me, because it not only tastes good, but it has turned out to be this meal that makes me feel like good throughout the day. So by the time I'm ready for lunch, I eat that and then I feel ready to keep working, whereas other lunches sometimes make me feel like I'm ready for a nap. And that's,
Yeah.
so this has been a really positive thing in my life. So I normally do take that time to cut up my vegetables, but sometimes I run out. And my other like huge thing other than the pre-chopped veggies is frozen vegetables, or any frozen food. Mm-hmm. You just take the measuring cup and throw some of it on the pan and you cook it for like, I think even less time than you would cook the raw ones, because they're already, sometimes they're already pre-cooked when they're frozen. And that can save you a significant amount of time as well. I know that time is incredibly powerful and essential and running low for everyone all the time.
Yeah, I'm with you too, where I find meal prepping to be really helpful for my week. So I roast a big batch of veggies sometime over the weekend. Yeah, usually in like on Sunday evenings or something as I'm preparing. And definitely like the difficult vegetables
Mm-hmm.
and and when I say difficult, like Eric and I have talked about like squashes and things that are hard to cut or you have to peel off excessive skin, butternut squash. Like honestly, it sometimes it hurts. Like if like my mother who has arthritis sometimes has a hard time cutting that. Or it's like dangerous if you're trying to rush through it. So you want to be, while we talk about making meal prep fun and stuff, like listening to podcasts and stuff, there is a certain level of attention you need to give to what you're doing because you are holding knives, people, and peelers and what you might be using. So just if you hate that part of meal prepping, maybe it is more worth it to buy the pre-chopped stuff. Because I like cauliflower, broccoli, and carrots every single week to throw in salads and mix in things I make for dinner. I like to pre-roast them. I buy a mixed bag of that already pre-cut, like Erica said, from Walmart. It's huge. I think it's like $5 or something. Like, yeah, it's a little more expensive than just buying the head of broccoli and cauliflower, but the time saved is valuable to me. And then in addition to that, find the things that are you just can't really find them cut up. And then you know, you again, you're just prioritizing your time. But I think I kind of want to get into the conversation too, though, of people who say that like, well, I don't really have time for meal prepping. You know, valid. What can that look like for you? I know Erica said frozen veggies, which a huge staple. Even just buying them and having them in your freezer. There are so many times where I'm like, I don't want to run to the grocery store, or yeah, something comes up where I'm like, I don't want to meal prep today. And frozen veggies come in clutch. But on top of that, with that argument of I don't have time to meal prep, what are your thoughts on that, Erica?
I don't know. I think I have conflicting thoughts. I understand the sentiment, like, I don't have time right now to meal prep, but you have time sometime because what are you doing instead of meal prepping? And I know that, like, there are days where it is just going to be easier and it is okay to be like, I'm just going to go pick something up. And that's totally fine. But how often are you doing that? How often are you driving to go get it, waiting for it to be done? And what could you have been doing during that time? And meal prepping doesn't even have to be, I meal prepped my meal for this week. One thing that I am going to be doing in the end of August is meal prepping and freezing meals. So I'm going to spend a good chunk of a day, which sucks maybe for some people, but like watch a movie while you do it. Chunk up your meals, freeze some of them so that the first 2 weeks of school, I don't have to cook a single day. Because I won't be able to. I will be too tired and I will have no energy and I don't want to go somewhere either. I'm going to want to stay home. So I'm going to invest some time in the beginning, but it's going to save me so much time and it's going to save me like longer than if I, meal prepped once a week or more than if I cooked dinner every night. Like even though it's a, good 5 hours to start, you can prep so much food. And I think you have to change your mindset of like why you're doing it. And also think about what time it's taking you because you're still eating at some point. Uh, but I don't want everyone to think like that means you can never be like, oh, I just can't today. I need to pick something up. Like I've I'll do that,
Right.
I just think we can get into that habit of justifying, like, I just can't do it or I don't feel like it today. My other big thing is like, fine, you can't meal prep. I totally do get that. I have a few like staples. So I have like the Morningstar black bean burgers are my like favorite food in the world. They are already made and they're in this little pack. I just take two of them and I put them on a skillet, heat them up so they're a little like crispier so you can have some crunch. And then I put them on a bun and cut up some onion and I'm done. That's all I have. And that meal takes me like a total of 10 minutes start to finish and I'm on my phone for half of it because I'm just waiting. So making sure maybe you have some of those meals that you can do in a pinch where you're like, I just don't have time, I'm too tired, whatever, where they're quick and ready and from scratch because they're just in my freezer and I didn't have to put the time in to make them. I think that has made my life easier and it takes off some of that that like load of like what am I gonna do, and I think that also can be what make people stop people from cooking their own meals, is they're like, I cannot even consider what I'm gonna cook today. I'm just going to pick something up so I don't have to figure it out. Well, I don't have to figure it out. I know that if I don't know what I'm gonna have for dinner, I'm gonna have a black bean burger, and then I'm gonna have a piece of candy.
The balance, right? Yeah, exactly. I think putting in that that forethought to just have some fallbacks for you, in those crunch times, especially if they can be frozen, they can stay in your freezer for a while. That's huge. And I am with you too that I feel like you have to view eating healthy and prepping and whatever goes into that for you as just a habit, like brushing your teeth and showering and going to the grocery store. Some days you can skip it and you can put your hair in a greasy bun and get through, but you can't do it forever and ever. And you just, to some extent have to find a time to just incorporate these practices. Find a day that works best for you. Do you call your mom every week where you can like put the FaceTime, like have her on FaceTime, put the phone down on the counter and like chop your veggies or whatever it may be? Is just, that's where I feel like a little bit of that choosing yourself and having the discipline to follow through on something that is going to benefit you is an important part of this, when it's plausible, right?
Right.
So, but yeah, I completely agree that to some extent, build it as a habit.
Yeah, and on that note, like if you've never meal prepped before, it's not something you're doing. You don't need to meal prep 3 meals a day for a week. I never meal prep breakfast. I know some people do. It's not for me. I have yogurt or a granola bar every day, so I do not cook anything for breakfast, or I have oatmeal. Again, I don't do anything. Lunch is mostly the only thing that I do meal prep for, because I'm not away from the house, and then usually I'll come home and cook dinner. But I think it'd be important to think like, I'm going to do one. I'm going to pick one meal that I have a really hard time getting myself to eat something from home, or eating something that makes me feel good, and do a meal prep for that. Don't just be like, I'm going to meal prep a snack and a dinner and I'm going to make a breakfast casserole. That's a lot. And that's gonna be overwhelming, and I would quit. Like, I know that even though I've done all this time and I've started to enjoy my meal prepping, if you were to tell me on Sunday I need to do all 21 meals for the next week, it would be overwhelming. So pick one to start with, and it could even just be as simple as, I'm going to meal prep snacks, because that's one thing that I do that I found to be really beneficial, is to cut up celery. I hate celery, fun fact, but I do eat it because they say it's good for you. And I will cut it up, and then I'll have it with a little container of peanut butter. That way I can just have that snack to munch on. Every other week I cut up a watermelon, and I just have the chunks in Tupperware. So that way, because I like to snack while I'm cooking, always, it's a problem. I can eat those little watermelons while I make dinner, and I'm not ruining my dinner at that point, and then I'm not hungry. So, pick something that you really feel will make a difference, and then just do that first, and then do it for a while. Then you can add the next step. You can start meal prepping your dinner or your breakfast, and go from there in what serves you.
That's such an important clarification that, yeah, I as well. I do not, when I meal prep for the week, it's not every single meal all the time. That is, for some people, they need that, and that it's actually beneficial to them in the long run. They same time, cool. I prep my veggies just so I can be creative. I pretty much have a salad and then a protein staple with lunch every day. That's my go-to. I'm a creature of habit because, like you said, Erica, that's the lunch that I know gives me energy. It doesn't bog me down. It makes me feel good. Breakfast things that I like are usually quick enough that I can make them every day, but I also, as I've talked about, I make a green smoothie every morning, and it is a little bit more time consuming, but it is something I've worked into a morning ritual that I've joked with my mom and other people. I cook because I love to eat food, but I don't necessarily love to cook. But there is something about making that smoothie every day that's almost centering for me, which might sound weird, but let that be known. So yeah, I prep my veggies for the week, and then usually a bulk protein staple, because I am the type of person where after work, I don't want to cook dinner. Like a lot of times I'm like, so I have something in my soul against like having to cook dinner. So if I can have something of the week that I'm like, okay, well, I have this chicken or shrimp or whatever it might be, and then all I have to do is get creative of how I prepare it. I'm much happier, and then I feel like I can do more of what I want to be doing with my evening. So totally right. You don't have to prep everything down to the last detail, but anything will save yourself time
Yeah,
as you go through your week.
absolutely. And I mean, find things you enjoy. There are going to be meals that you hate making. There are going to be meals that you find easy to make. And say you think that like Brooke's green juice smoothie every morning is super super cool. I can't handle the sound of a blender in the morning. Like I have like some sound things, and I'm like I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But sometimes I love green juice and I love green smoothies. So I buy green juice sometimes, and I just drink it out from the bottle that I bought it from, and that obviously costs me more, and it's not, well, it depends who you are. I do prefer when it's like that freshly made, I enjoy that, but it still tastes really good, and it gets me feeling like I have that nutrition. And you can even look within your community. Like I just found out, I was at the farmers market like last week, and there was this company that was selling juice, and they had like sold out. So I was like, oh, they must be fantastic if they sold out. And then they said that they're kind of working towards doing like a bi-weekly subscription or something, where they're gonna bring freshly pressed juice to people's houses. So
Cool.
yeah, those things are gonna cost money. So you kind of got to decide like what you're gonna do, and we can go into that sometime too about like the value of those things to you. But like you don't have to make it be something that you do. But there is something to say for when it becomes like a self-care ritual, which is kind of what you said, where you feel like I'm doing
Mhm.
something for me, and it makes me feel good in this interaction with myself. And then it's totally worth it. That's how I feel about cutting out my veggies. I get excited for it now, which I totally did not in the beginning.
And that's again kind of going back to this like it's going to take time when you build it into a habit, when you feel and see the results or whatever it may be. At the beginning it might be annoying, or there's still days where I'm rushing and I'm like, "Gah," like I shouldn't snooze for 15 minutes because now I'm rushing through this and it doesn't feel as like it's serving me as much. But that the more you do these things, it is interesting, what you will
Yeah.
find that, oh, I kind of enjoy this piece of my week. It's relaxing or it's centering. Like, especially if you do something on like a Sunday evening. I know that's a common day for people to meal prep because I think to some extent it grounds you to get ready for your week, and you're creating this base of like, well, I have this covered, so I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and yeah, it's Monday and no one loves Mondays, but I feel like I'm already ahead of the game
Absolutely.
because I
Yeah.
did this for myself.
And one thing that I have found to be super helpful, because we're kind of talking about like those big meals and stuff like that are so important, is, you know, you don't want to let yourself get super hungry during the day. I know that like sometimes when people are like, "Oh, I'm eating healthy," that some people feel like you shouldn't snack. I don't know all of the reasons why people say that you shouldn't snack. I think you need to learn kind of how your own body reacts to different kinds of food. And if you do struggle, like snacking makes you feel sick, or snacking is like triggering for something for you, I don't know. But I'm like, I always have a protein bar in my purse. I always have something that is like ready to eat right then, because if I let myself get to a point where I'm feeling really hungry, then I get mad, and then all of this falls apart. So yeah, it is real. Like I will catch myself getting into like fights with my husband, and I'll have to like step back and be like, I'm just really hungry and I can't talk to you right now because I'm not thinking clearly, which sounds so dramatic, right? But it is 100% real. So now I'm like, okay, I make sure that I have like a Quest bar with me, or I make sure that I have like a protein shake. I'm a big fan of those convenience items. They do cost more. It is an investment. You can make those, make something similar like that on your own with protein powder, and that's really cool. But that's not something that I'm ready to do right now. I'm like, I only have this much space in my mind and brain and in my day, so I'm gonna buy these and I'm gonna use them to make it so that I stay on track and don't get into fights with my spouse, don't end up eating an entire cake. I mean, you can eat a whole cake if you want, but I feel like I'm going to die after, um, and just kind of, sorry, just kind of using that to help support my goals and what I have found to be the best for how I feel with what I eat and how I perform throughout my day.
Yeah, let's all turn into the moms that have snacks in our purses, right? Like, no matter who you are, even if it wasn't your mom, you know someone's mom who she always had snacks, or the grandmas with the hard candies, but let's get away from that. Yes, when your blood sugar drops, you get a little hangry. So take the time. Protein staples are really good, but yeah, like I even like in your car, like in my counsel and stuff, sometimes I'll have like mixed nuts in there. I buy bulk almonds, but I'll put them in a baggie or a container and I'll keep them in my car. Or like you said, throwing an apple in your bag, because don't just, especially if you go out for work or you're a student or something like that and you're out for the day and you're like, oh, I always end up just like going through Taco Bell and like pack yourself some solid snacks like apples, healthy fats, and like nuts and seeds and things, or a granola bar that's not too high in sugar so you don't crash. Like those are good staples to help hold you over. And that, yeah, such a life hack. I know. I think a lot of times I think it's because Americans, like, we snack with everything, right? Like we watch movies, we TV, it's like we mindlessly eat. So I think snacks have gotten a bad rep. But if you notice that like your energy drops and things like, and just to keep your metabolism running, like, especially if we're talking to a lot of people that are like our age, or if you're eating things that are
Yeah.
nutritious for you, you can snack. You can snack. I think it's just getting away from like the bag of chips as your snack, right? Or something like that. So putting in even just the 5 minutes of like, what snacks could I have this week? And then that might just mean buying 5 apples. Boom. Apple a day.
Do that a lot because I struggle to feel full when I'm eating right away. That could be for a multitude of reasons, but I know that if those Annie's bunnies, I love them. Thanks for bringing that into my life, Brooke. They're so good, and I will
So good.
that I don't feel good anymore. They're not ones
Yeah.
that don't make me feel good, but I have an issue where I can just sit there and eat, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I hurt. Everything feels gross now. So what I have found to be super helpful is I actually have like little bowls that are about the size of a cup, like a measuring cup. And sometimes I'll like fill that with a snack, or I'll even count out like a serving size. And if I want more, I'm comfortable in my life now where I'm like, yeah, I know, I kind of know what's going on with my body, and I know that I eat a lot of nutritious food, so I'm going to go back for some more. But like, if I at least start with that portion, I then have enough time to be like, am I full? Like, did that fit? Did that meet my needs, or should I go back? And that has been exceptionally helpful. So I'm not just eating. You don't want to eat something right out of the bag because you won't notice how much you're eating.
Dangerous.
And
Yeah.
food is fuel. Like, it is something that you should enjoy. Like, we love food, right? We were talking about how we went through Milwaukee and like all our focus was like, this is what we're going to eat. And then we're going to go eat again, right? But you don't want to be eating in a way that's mindless, that you're not enjoying, that you're not like really tasting it. And these things have helped me to enjoy my food more while preventing me from like making myself sick, or honestly, like feeling like I ruined the whole day. Like I have definitely in the past been like, oh, I'm feeling really hungry, I'm gonna snack on this, and then I eat it, I don't feel good, and then I'm like, well, I can get into my own head and be like, well, now I need to not eat something like that. Like tomorrow I can't eat anything sweet or whatever. And I think avoiding getting into that cycle is just the best thing you can do for yourself.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, Erica, too, about not punishing yourself the following day, right? Like that's again, it's so easy to slip into those extremes where like maybe you snacked more. Yeah, you chose to kind of overindulge one day. You start the next day fresh,
Right.
and you don't look back. Focus where you are now. You set yourself up for success in these ways that we're talking about. And I know we talked about this a little bit too, but one thing is, I think a really easy tip that I've incorporated, and I've noticed the difference when I don't drink enough water, is like carry a water bottle around with you. I know I feel like especially for people our age, Erica, like that is such a known thing. Like everyone's like, duh, I have my emotional support water bottle
Yeah.
everywhere. But that too, again, think ahead. Okay, I'm gonna bring a reusable water bottle with me before I leave for my classes or before I leave for the day. Fill that baby up. Put reminders on. I actually had to shut the reminders off on my watch because I was always like, God, I'm drinking enough. Like, Apple there, or I had an app. I downloaded a separate app and it just became too much. But at first that was really good for me because like when I did go to school to be a teacher. I'm not now, but when I was student teaching, you get so busy in your day. Like I'm carrying it around with me, but there's even something where I was like, I just wasn't. I mean, studies say I think it's if it's sitting next to you, you'll just mindlessly take sips throughout the
Yeah.
day. But if you need actual like physical reminders and you have a smartwatch or something on your phone or whatever it may be,
Mm-hmm.
that's really helpful to keeping you hydrated kind of helps with different cravings. It helps your energy levels. And that's just, water is so important for our bodies. So that's just another way that you can set yourself up to, it even helps protect you from like reaching for the salty foods, right? Because I think we know, all of us know now that when you crave chips, a lot of times your body's craving water. And they know if you eat something, they, as in like your cells or your brain, I don't know what I meant by
Yeah.
they, your body knows that when you eat those chips, you're gonna be like, oh, now I'm thirsty. And you're gonna hopefully drink something that is water. So just being mindful of not only what you are eating, you're bringing with you to prepare, but also the liquids you're consuming, because that can be a big part of helping you cut down on excess sugars and also helping you be more hydrated, which helps cravings and things overall.
Yeah. And for, for people like me, I don't love water. Like I drink water and I'm like, ew, gross. But like, I'm not, I know many people are like, oh yeah, I just need like a nice cold glass of water. That is not something that I feel. So I have, found ways around it. Like I like Crystal Light, like put a little taste in there. But my big thing is, tea, hot tea. I could drink that, and I do that a lot at work. So I'll have a cup of tea during, like, I have this thing called, I have a time called prep where I'm not supposed to have children. And during that, I drink like a giant, like a cup this big full of tea in like, just a few minutes. And that helps me to make sure I'm getting enough water in. Even if I am not, I do have my water bottle with me, but I know that sometimes it is not, coming up into my mind like, oh, drink some water. So kind of putting these opportunities to get more water in your system in a way that is not a super sodium filled liquid can be really helpful.
There's so many delicious teas out there now, caffeine free, caffeinated, like berry, melon flavors. Like I had when was working in an office, I had like a honeydew green tea that was
Mm-hmm.
delicious. And I would, obviously you have to heat it up so it steeps well, but then I would ice it and drink it like an iced green
Yeah.
tea. So that's a great thing to add, or even putting frozen fruit in your water and then, or like mint and different types of herbs and things. Like I like to create like the spa water, which is,
Mm-hmm.
lemon, cucumber, sometimes a little mint in there. And I'm like, oh, I definitely find myself sipping on that more throughout the day when I get sick of water as well. So that's a really good tip.
I like to put them in a cup that I enjoy. That's probably a really dumb hack, but find a cup you like. It'll make you happy, and then you'll want to drink from it.
It's so true though, right? Because sometimes it's the aesthetic. Like I feel like if you Google best water bottle or cup reviews, people go extensively into that because they are die hard. They like my hydro flask. I didn't get on this bandwagon for a long
Yeah.
time, and this baby's huge. It doesn't even fit in my cup holder in the car, which was kind of a sad point. But I love it so much that it's always in my arm. You see me at the gym, you see me driving, it's like tucked next to me like a little child. Like I'm surprised I don't have a baby
Just
strap
holding
and
it.
it's just not in the front here because I love this thing. And when I do have to take a small water bottle because I don't know, this massive thing just won't fit where I'm going, I miss it. So, yes, find what you love and what works for you and read reviews because there are people who put extensive water bottle and cute cup reviews online.
Appeal to the childlike parts of yourself, or even to the like
Mm.
crow parts of yourself. Like crows are like, I see that shiny thing, I like it, I'm gonna pursue that. Like that is a part of our brain too as humans, and I think sometimes we need to like, trick ourselves into doing things that are good for us. And if that is through buying a cute cup or For me, also, cute workout clothes can help make me be like, "Ah, I'm so ready to work out because I look cute," which maybe seems dumb, okay? But I don't care because it is encouraging to me. And that is all I'm trying to get out of this.
So, pivoting on this topic a little bit, some of the feedback I got from the healthy food episode was just they liked our idea of, starting with breakfast as your base and what makes you feel good. And some people were especially intrigued by the idea of incorporating vegetables for breakfast because they're like, well, how do you do that? Obviously, the green smoothie, which, let's be real, again, it is, I love it so dearly, but I'm completely aware that it is a bougie part of my morning that not everyone will prioritize or just even has the time for if they wanted to. So, some other ways, like for me, especially, I have just, it's almost become kind of a game to me now, but I am always intrigued by how you can include more vegetables in different meals for yourself, like how you can sneak veggies in, right? And granted, I'm not here to like again, I am not vegan, I'm not strictly vegetarian, but I feel and I believe in the importance of veggies because they bring so many nutrients into your body. So I'm just going to say that. But I wanted to throw out some other breakfast examples that like when I travel or something and I can't make my green smoothie, like what I use. So I also, that being said, I don't just drink a green smoothie. Like, that's not my sole breakfast in the morning. I always have usually 3 eggs because I work out. I move my body quite a bit. I luckily am in a season of my life where I can be very active. So I have a healthy amount of protein in every meal, which actually everybody should. But my green juice is like it's my way to get in veggies. It's my little something sweet. And then I usually have an egg and 2 egg white servings worth of, whatever that might be. So in eggs, if you have time, throw in some veggies in your eggs. You can make an egg bake where you like those roasted veggies you use, spray a pan, like a casserole dish, put the veggies in there, dump some like crack eggs or dump egg whites in there, bake it and just warm it up for yourself in the mornings. That can be helpful. Or smoothies and shakes. I personally find that I like a hack I have for myself if I'm like, okay, my morning's going to be busy, but I like it, my smoothie like blended fresh every morning because otherwise it separates and stuff. You can still, because I have a Ninja, so I pack like one of those big cups. Like I put everything in there, but I don't put the liquids in and stuff yet. And then I put it on the blender and blend it in the morning. So that can be another thing, like a protein shake or a smoothie of yours. Like sneak some veggies in there. Spinach is a huge way to get greens, especially if you're looking for greens, into your breakfast in the form of a smoothie or a shake. Because unlike kale and other things, you don't really taste
Right.
it. Like
You can hide spinach. Like you can put a lot of spinach in a small
yes,
thing, and you're not really adding any calories or any like weight to what you're eating, but it is, definitely getting you those nutrients.
absolutely. And, on top of that avocado toast, you can slide some microgreens are really delicious. They add some like fresh crunch. You can put those on an avocado toast. Or if you are someone like my mom, for example, due to some food sensitivities and things, she has a salad for breakfast every day to make sure she gets her greens in and she has different proteins she rotates on top of that. And at first, because she was doing it as part of like a detox program, she's like, I don't like this, like having greens for
Yeah.
breakfast. And now she craves it. Like she loves it. She loves how it makes her feel. And she like actually craves the taste of that in the mornings. So again, when you do it enough, your taste buds will adjust. You'll build this habit. So if you want to if you feel like having a fresh salad is something that works for you, cool. If you need to hide your veggies more, totally
Right.
okay. Like we've all been there. Again, my idea of like sneaking veggies in where you can find them, or wherever you can, excuse me. There are certain veggies like spinach that you just don't taste as much. For example, like frozen cauliflower rice. Like once you steam it, like it smells like cauliflower, but it doesn't really taste like it. So that's an easy one. Spinach is an easy one, like we were saying. Zucchini is another big. It's like, kind of more of a water-based vegetable. So you can do zoodles or you can throw it in like to your spaghetti meat mixes, your tacos, or mushrooms and things like as long as you don't have allergies, chop it up really fine, cook it in. I cook kale down into like everything I make because I think when you cook it, you don't really taste the bitterness and stuff as much. So just get creative with that too. Like if you chop anything up finely enough and you cook it in with stuff, like you can pack veggies into so many different things, soups, casseroles, again, even ground meat and different like bulk proteins. Just get creative and even try it out and be like, I wonder if I'll be able to taste this. Um,
I
it's fun.
totally agree. And I also think it's worth noting, like, think about how you've had vegetables in the past, and if you did not like them, try cooking them a different way. So, like, I didn't really love vegetables at all for most of my life. I usually had them either boiled or sauteed, and to this day, I do not love either of those. I can do like a stir fry saute now, I can enjoy those, but even still, it is not my preference. I think that roasting them kind of it makes them taste totally different to me. So I went from never eating them to being like, my favorite food is Brussels sprouts because I've tried them a new way. And I mean, that took some time, but I promise you that you can find a way that you will like them. So do not forget, there's more than one way of cooking them. You can steam them, roast them, boil them, cook them into something. But also, for the love of all things, please try seasoning them. Season them with many season them with
Yes.
Italian seasoning, garlic powder, onion powder, cumin. Try anything. It will change the flavor profile so much that you can have almost the same group of vegetables, and the way you've cooked or seasoned them, it tastes an entirely. It's just an entirely different flavor profile.
Absolutely. Like one little tip and trick I even got my mom hooked on. My roasted veggies, I love doing turmeric, curry powder, cumin. It's kind of more of that like curried sort of flavor on my veggies, and then I throw it on top of salads. It mixes really well with like goat cheese and fruit and balsamic vinegar. But I also throw it in with, dinner, or it's like it's really good plain on the side like with fish or in sauces. Yes, like it makes such a difference when you actually give some flavor to your food. And also, dried herbs and seasonings are really good for you. Like, they're often very antioxidant packed, and like turmeric is anti inflammatory. Anytime you can squeeze that bad boy in there with some black pepper to help your body absorb it, you are already just slaying the game. So, totally, totally. Don't be a plain Jane if you can help it and experiment. And then this way too, you can kind of eat the same things, but you're changing it up and you're not getting
Yeah.
bored either.
And on that note, if you take a bite and you're like, this sucks, maybe take one more. And if you're still like, this sucks, don't force yourself to finish it that way. If you force yourself to finish it and you're like, this is nasty, your chances of trying that food a different way later on are significantly lower. So when I try something new, I have to give myself the grace to be like, this is yucky. Because I'm a pretty picky eater. Like there are many things I do not like, and if
Mm.
I force it down, the chances I'll try that vegetable again in a new way or that meat again in a new way is almost none. So give yourself some grace and know that like you're maybe not going to like everything. Maybe you'll come to like it later, but don't just sit there and eat something that you think is nasty because that's not helping you. It's just ruining your relationship with that food even more, and that's not worth it.
On the flip side of that, speaking to the people maybe more like me who I'm not a very picky eater, I've always loved veggies for the most part. It's like, okay, I've got it down, I would enjoy them, but how do I get more of them? Right? So, again, trying to incorporate them creatively into different meals. Even just, and I know people are like, oh, I'm so sick of salads, but like, you guys, if look into fun creative salads, just like while you're scrolling, Google it. Like a great way, it really is. Like I again have a salad as at lunch every day because it's a staple that makes me feel good. But you can have it at the beginning of dinner, anything, and really playing around with. Okay, I'm going to heat up some of my roasted veggies and put that on cold greens, and I'm going to add nuts and like different types of balsamic vinegars and olive oil, like adding different textures and different flavors. Like, whenever you go to those bougie salad bowl places, sometimes, when you look at the menu or you see just like the array of different options they have for you, it's not just plain carrots, plain this, blah, blah, because yeah, that's boring. So in addition to different seasonings, mix around different textures, hot and cold. Like there's so many fun ways you can incorporate it. Just more veggies in general. And as Erica said too, snacks, cutting things up, having them prepared so you can mindlessly munch. Or if I'm with you, Erica, celery is really hard for me unless it's blended into something or it's cooked. So finding like a peanut butter, some sort of staple, but then having the vehicle that delivers that
Yes.
peanut butter and stuff to your body be a water-based veggie. I've even done carrots with peanut butter. For the most part, you can, veggies taste good with different things. Hummus, amazing. If you can find a good hummus, that's a great staple. My other tip or something that has been really helpful for me too is when I think I've talked about, I did like a 30-day food and fitness thing about a year or so ago through Madeline Moves. And she uses like this one specifically included macro counting and stuff. But if you didn't want to do that, there was this build your plate method, which she uses, but it's also just a general thing where a really helpful way, because we all kind of grew up with that plate, or now it's like a lunch tray in school, so it's like you build your plate and it should be this much of this. To incorporate more veggies, like think about 50% of your plate being like a water-based non-starchy vegetable. So greens, cucumbers, peppers, just fresh things cooked, whatever is best for you. Then you have like 25% protein and then 25% of like a good healthy carb, like a potato or a quinoa or something like that. That was really helpful, like a visual for me, that sometimes when I'm like, and I personally, I've read in her different things that sometimes they say you want to eat your protein first. Do whatever works best for you, but I sometimes like to get my veggies in first. Like I look forward to them as part of my plate, but when I didn't before, I'm like, okay, I'm going to finish this salad because again, it's that fiber, it's got that water, it helps you not overeat, and you're prioritizing those first. Like if you have to start where you're like, my salad's not my favorite part of my dinner, but you prioritize eating that first and then kind of finishing with the foods that you're looking really forward to, like that piece of lasagna. Do that again, kind of find a way to not trick your brain, but just to find ways that you can reward yourself by incorporating veggies too, I think can be helpful.
Yeah, because this is a journey in food. I mean, like you are gonna try things you like, you don't like, you're going to learn to like certain foods. And that sounds really weird, but like at least, from what I've learned about the American diet, we have become so fine-tuned into these really processed, hyper addictive, hyper tasty foods, that we're like almost geared to not like these whole foods anymore. So, use some of these tricks till you can give your body time to adjust. And once it adjusts, it will
Yes.
crave these foods. You will find that you taste so much more. Everything is so much tastier now. But like you have to give your body time to almost like go through the withdrawals. Like it
Yes.
needs to get some of that hyper tasty, I don't even know what to call it, but like that really addictive food. And that doesn't mean I've never gotten McDonald's again, but almost every time I do, I feel like I'm going to die and it doesn't taste as good as I remember because my body has like reverted. I mean, it has turned into like seeking what I need and it's no longer addicted to seek out this food.
Yes. Honestly, you guys, Eric and I talk about this extensively.
Mhm.
Me and other people in my life who have also taken similar health journeys, we talk about this. It is so true. Like it is not just with us. If you start incorporating things, healthier food into your life, you will feel it yourself.
Mhm.
And like I, for example, like to use the example of like a really juicy, greasy burger, right? Like when I started eating more veggies and eating more clean, I'd get to the end of the week and I'm like, I need some grease in my system. I need something, like you crave it, right? And then as time went on, it was like a little less than that. I'm like, oh, maybe, I haven't had one in a while. It tastes good when I'm sitting down at the restaurant, right? But now sometimes like I go to the restaurant, like perfect example, I was somewhere 2 days ago and I was scrolling the menu and yeah, there was like barbecue sandwiches and burgers and pasta plates. And I'm not gonna lie to you, sometimes I still want pasta and it is the best thing in the world. But I looked at this roasted veggie salad with salmon and I was like, that sounds good. Like I'm craving that
Right.
because it's something different, because again, it's like you almost start craving these healthy things that, like Erica said, your body wants and needs, but it might be prepared a different way than you're used to. So you're like, it almost feels like it's something new and exciting, but just know that in getting there is a process, and you will not be there next week. You might not even be there next year, but keep investing in yourself because you will feel the progress. But don't necessarily compare it to exactly what Eric and I are saying, but pay attention to
Right.
it, and what you find yourself craving less or you even enjoy more. If you need to focus on it that way, like, oh, but I've enjoyed vegetables more. And like Eric and I will have like a salad or something. We'll be like, wow, these peppers and this, like, yeah, you individually taste these different foods that used to just be a big, bland bowl of
Right.
nothing. And it's awesome.
It is wild that you taste more. Things have way more
Mm-hmm.
flavor than they did before. And that's why I can love food even more now than I did before. And it is because I can taste it.
Or even kind of like what you were saying, Erica, too, of when you eat something that you loved before and you're like, oh, I don't like how that makes me feel. My mom and I were talking about that recently too, that, when we get to the end of the week or like I'm at the end of the week, I'm like, oh, I kind of want to go out for food. I still have certain places that I'm like, oh, I'm kind of craving something like this. But I noticed that a lot of the places that used to be go-tos of mine or I'm craving those things, not only do I know what it's going to make me feel like after I eat it, like I have a noticeable difference about what that food does to my body. A lot of times I am eating it and I am aware. I'm like, this is so much more flavorful than it almost should be. Or this is like you taste this is really heavy in like this certain ingredient and while I'm eating it, I almost notice it like I can still enjoy it, but there's a part of me that almost enjoys it a little less. And I don't mean that in a way that it's bad. I actually appreciate it because I feel like it doesn't have a stronghold on
Yeah.
me, if that makes sense. Like I'm like, I appreciate this in this space, but I'm not going to wake up tomorrow and be like, oh, I want to go back there. I'm like, no, I'm good for a while because that felt like an indulgence and it almost was just a little too hyper palatable.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm definitely not suggesting that people stop ever going out to eat. I think that when you say I'm never going to have this again or I'm cutting something out, I do think that that encourages kind of binging behavior. I think it encourages kind of giving up
Mm-hmm.
once you make a mistake, air quote that. So I'm not, I don't think that everyone should stop going to restaurants forever, but I do think you will notice these differences, and that is why I still love to go out to eat with people. I think eating with people is a big part of our culture, and I think that like I enjoy
Yes.
that aspect, but I have changed how I approach going out to a restaurant. I always read menus beforehand if possible. Also, just because I like to know what I'm going to get and then order right away because I have a very hard time waiting. Um, but I will think about like what food am I really wanting from this restaurant. So sometimes like I really so my go-to meal back in the day was like chicken tenders and fries, and I still love both of those items. But normally I will choose one or the other and I'll like switch out the main or the side. So like if I'm really like I'm going to Red Robin and I really want their fries because I like their seasoning, I'm going to choose to get like a grilled chicken sandwich instead so that I don't have all of the because both the chicken and the chicken strips and the fries are fried food. If I eat both of those, I know I'm going to come out of it feeling not good, and then it won't have been a pleasant experience, or I won't be able to hang out afterwards, or something like that. So I'm like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to swap out one of those items to something that I know that I can digest better, that's going to make me feel better and probably make me feel more full. And that has, kind of made eating out less scary, and also still be enjoyable, something I can do with people who I care about.
Yeah, because like we've talked about this before too, Erica, one on one, that we totally believe, and I think we even said it earlier in this episode food is medicine. Food is medicine. It's important we approach it that way. But food is also, it can be pleasurable, right? Like there are people who are so gifted on this earth to come up with just these delicious meals and different recipes that, yeah, your food is meant to be enjoyed. And splurging, especially like you said with friends, like that is so important too, because you're here to enjoy your life, enjoy your food, and there is a part of your brain that like it activates like dopamine, right? When you have a really good meal and you're like, oh, that was delicious. You just don't want to be seeking that all the time, because that's where it becomes like you're eating more for pleasure instead of food as medicine, which like there needs to be that balance. Am I right? Like with every good thing, you can have too much of the good hyperpalatable stuff or too much of the, well, I'm not going to eat that because it's going to make me like, no. If, yeah, on a Friday night, sometimes I'm like, I'm going to eat that piece of chocolate cake after dinner because it's so good at this restaurant. Then I'm going to roll over and go to bed. But you know what? That's my splurge for the week. And like you said, if you can plan it around friends or just make it a time that you look forward to and you get ready for and make it an experience, I think that's a very, very healthy
It
thing to
truly is
do.
the balance. I mean, not trying to just like shout out the name of the podcast. That has been what has made, I feel like, made both of us successful. I feel like, at least for myself, I have had many failed experiences with getting healthier, right? Like incorporating more, healthy foods and vegetables and working out more. I have had many phases of life where that's something I wanted to work toward or I've tried to work toward. And I have always ended up swinging one way or the other too hard. And it's learning myself and learning to kind of walk that line and finding that balance that has made this last, I'd say I'm about one full year into like this being my regular life. Um, and it's been enjoyable. I feel like I'm happier. All of that has been through finding the whole, like, I'm still going to have cookie cake once every few months. It's only every few months because I will eat all of it. Like I will eat as much as is in my presence. And I know that that cannot be a regular occurrence in my life. But if I said I'm never having again, that would be really sad. I mean, what is my life without cookie cake? Which again, that's so dramatic, but it is so real.
Totally. Like, I think I'm so glad you pointed that out, Erica, because I think that's another good mental check that you can use when you are going through this journey, right? Like, a way you can check yourself as to, like, are you going too extreme is like, well, the changes and things I'm feeling, because I think a lot of times people, when they change their eating habits and things, you start to see weight differences or you feel energy differences, all great and good. But do you
Yes.
still enjoy your food? Does it intimidate you? Because that might mean that you're swaying too much one way. Or do you feel happier? Are you feeling like it is supporting you and who you want to be? Like, just hearing the positivity through which you express these changes, I'm like, that right there is the point of all of this. But if you are miserable or you feel like you become obsessive about it, that's where it's important to check yourself, to seek help, to talk to someone. Eric and I have expressed that we have both been there at times in our life. And who's to say we won't be there at a time next year, right? It is okay. It is normal. But and just know that you can get out of it. And there is a way to approach this that it brings more joy into your life.
Yeah. It's not all or nothing. And that's what I
Mm-hmm.
really hope, that our listeners take away from this conversation is you don't have to overhaul everything to find this betterment. And it's not going to be, I think you said this in the last podcast, but it's not going to be linear. You're not just going to go one day from it being really hard to all of a sudden it's easy and then it's never hard again. There are going to be times, especially around like holidays, or like I have like in the month of May and June, I have like 8 birthdays, right? And so I was going to birthdays so regularly and I'm going to eat cake at every single one of those, right? But then it did. For a few, like maybe 2 weeks or so after, like I had four in a row, I was like, I really want some cake. And it's because I had eaten it like really six or so times in like 3 weeks. And then for a little bit, I felt kind of bad. And I had to find that balance again of being like, I can have that occasionally. But when I'm having it all the time, it does become this craving cycle where I do think, it lowers the value of my, or not the value of my life, but the like my enjoyment of my life. It lowers my quality. There we go. The quality of life, not the value. Nice. But it does. It definitely has a huge effect.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is so, so true. Yeah, so just again, Remember to give yourself grace, to know that you're going to falter. It is not always going to be easy, but check in on yourself throughout these changes. That is such an important part. Because I think another thing too, just gonna be real, a lot of times when we make changes that sometimes require discipline, or you're doing it for the healthier you, blah blah blah, we want it to be instantaneous and I don't have to think about it and I just eat spinach, all of a sudden I'm healthier. No, this needs to be an investment. You need to check in with yourself. It's going to take up some brain space, at least for the time
Yeah.
being, until it's so built in your subconscious as a habit that you're like, oh, it's just easier for me to go to restaurants now, or I don't feel the push and pull. I don't feel the guilt. It's going to take time. And in order to do that in a mentally healthy way, you need to check in with yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I hate that I'm going to say it again, but it is really just finding that balance. Like you have to walk that line, especially in the society that we live in where, you're hearing, oh, if you watch what you eat at all, you're on a diet and it's diet culture and you are, developing negative behaviors. Well, that is not the case. But it is also not the case that you should never eat anything that is deemed unhealthy or anything that is that hyper palatable food, or that you should never indulge. It is just kind of walking that line, and unfortunately, the current way that we live makes it hard to find that balance. But that's kind of part of life that we're going to strive to find it.
Well, this was such a fun conversation. I'm so glad. Thank you again to anyone who reached out to us, who have given us feedback on any of our episodes, on anything. We just appreciate you guys listening. And this has already just been so fun for us that we look forward to continuing to hear from you. And again, if you have tips and tricks for us, let us know what works for you, or even what are you struggling with. Like, I was so grateful when someone followed up and threw some questions my way about our healthy food episode that gave Erica and I food for thought and really prompted us to do this video next, instead of what we originally had planned. And we love it. Like, this is what we want, is a dynamic conversation between us and our listeners. So thank you.
Because if you guys don't tell us what you want us to talk about, eventually we are going to run out of ideas and we're going to have to start talking about like completely absurd things, which I'm sure we're going to do anyway. But like, we really want this to be a community, and a community involves conversation that isn't just Brooke and I's voices. So we love to hear from you guys, and we really value it.
Any closing thoughts for us, Erica? Anything that you want to make sure we have covered, or you just want it to be known?
I just want people to make sure that when they're making these changes, that they're treating themselves with kindness, but that they're still understanding, sometimes it's going to feel hard, and that's okay. Don't ruin your life over it, but it's worth the effort in the end. It really is worth the effort.
Well said, my friend. Well said.